The planet Virelia was unlike anything humans had seen before. Its skies shimmered with two suns, casting long, golden shadows across forests of crystal trees that sparkled like jewels. The air was thick with strange fragrances, a mix of sweet flowers and sharp, tangy minerals. For Commander Elias Ward, it was both beautiful and dangerous. Every step he took needed care. The planet's surface was unpredictable, and every plant seemed alive. Elias had been sent as part of the United Earth Exploration Corps, a team of scientists and explorers dedicated to discovering new worlds. Virelia was on the edge of known space, and humans had only just begun studying it. The team's mission was simple: observe, document, and ensure that any contact with intelligent life was peaceful. But nothing in Elias's training could have prepared him for what he would encounter next. Through a clearing in the crystal forest, Elias saw her. She was unlike any being he had ever encountered. Standing tall and elegant, she seemed to glow under Virelia's twin suns. Her skin was pale, with subtle hues of green and blue, and faint patterns shimmered along her arms and neck. Her eyes were deep violet, filled with a strange mix of curiosity and caution. "Don't touch me," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I'm poisonous." Elias froze, instinctively raising his hands in a gesture of peace. I won't," he said carefully. He studied her, trying to understand how someone so beautiful could also be so dangerous. "I am Princess Lysara," she said, her gaze never leaving him. "You must leave. Humans are not safe here. You do not understand." Elias felt a rush of excitement. First contact with intelligent life was rare, and here it was a royal figure, no less. "I'm Commander Elias Ward," he said. "We come in peace. I only wish to observe and learn." Lysara's eyes narrowed. "Learning? Humans rarely come here without taking. You cannot touch. You cannot approach. Step back, or you will suffer the consequences." Elias noticed the subtle shimmer around her hands and arms. It was a faint glow, almost like heat waves rising from a hot surface. Somehow, it made sense she was poisonous. But Elias also saw something else, a flicker of loneliness behind her wary eyes. "I don't wish to harm you," he said, taking a careful step forward. "I'm not like others. I can respect your boundaries." Lysara hesitated, and for a moment, her expression softened. Few humans do. For hours, Elias and Lysara remained in that forest clearing, keeping their distance but communicating as best they could. She spoke of her people, a civilization that had lived on Virelia for millennia. They were careful, protective of their environment, and highly aware of the dangers of physical contact. Her warnings were not just for herself. She explained that even minor contact could cause sickness or death for most creatures. Elias listened, fascinated. Every word painted a picture of a society that was advanced, cautious, and deeply connected to their world. Humans, he realized, could learn much from them. And yet, he felt the pull of human curiosity, the urge to connect, to understand, to bridge the gap between two very different species. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden rustling in the crystal forest. Elias immediately recognized the danger. A native creature, large and fast, with glimmering scales and razor-like claws. Lysara tensed, ready to flee, but Elias acted. Using only his environmental scanner and a few improvised tools from his pack, he created a small sonic barrier that confused the creature. It skidded to a halt, hissing and snapping, before retreating into the forest. Lysara's eyes widened in astonishment. "You did that, without harming it," she said. Her voice was tinged with disbelief. "No human has ever done that before." Elias smiled. "We adapt. We find ways to survive and protect, without always resorting to force." For the first time, Lysara allowed herself to relax slightly. She looked at him differently, not as a potential threat, but as someone who might understand. You are unusual, human. Over the next few days, Elias explored more of the crystal forest, with careful guidance from Lysara. He learned to navigate the toxic plants, avoid dangerous ground crevices, and respect the boundaries she insisted upon. Every step was a lesson in patience, humility, and observation. And every step drew them closer, not physically, but in understanding. One evening, as the twin suns set behind jagged crystal mountains, Lysara paused at the edge of a glowing lake. The water reflected the sky in shades of gold and violet, casting an ethereal light across her face. Elias watched silently, marveling at the beauty of the world and of her. "You humans are persistent," she said quietly. "I do not know why. Most species flee or attack. You adapt. You continue. Even when I say no." Elias shrugged, trying to keep the moment light. "Perhaps we are curious. Perhaps we hope that understanding can overcome fear. Perhaps some of us just want to help." Lysara's gaze softened. For a moment, the fierce, poisonous warning in her eyes disappeared, replaced by something fragile and human-like: trust. Suddenly, a tremor ran through the ground. Crystals cracked, sending small shards falling like rain. A minor quake, common on Virelia, but dangerous near the glowing lake. Lysara froze, unsure of how to react safely. Without thinking, Elias extended a careful hand just close enough to show support, but not touching. "Step back slowly. Follow my lead." Together, they moved away from the cracking crystal formations, Elias guiding Lysara with words and subtle gestures. When the quake subsided, she turned to him, her eyes wide. "You saved me," she whispered. "I saved both of us," Elias replied. "We work better together, even with our differences." Lysara nodded, a small smile appearing for the first time. That night, as Elias returned to his research outpost, he reflected on what had happened. He had not touched Lysara, yet he felt a bond forming, delicate, cautious, but undeniable. Humanity had a chance here, not just to explore, but to connect, to learn, and to be trusted. And Lysara, in her crystal palace far away, stared at the twin suns and wondered if humans were different in ways no other species could understand. Perhaps this human, Elias Ward, might be the beginning of a new chapter for her people and for humanity. The chapter closed with a silent promise, unspoken but deeply felt. The first meeting was only the beginning. The journey ahead would be filled with wonder, challenge, and discovery. And through it all, human courage, empathy, and creativity would shine brightly like the crystal forests of Virelia itself. Days passed since Elias's first encounter with Princess Lysara. The memory of her violet eyes and glowing skin stayed in his mind, pulling him back to the crystal forests of Virelia again and again. But this time, he was not just an observer. He had a mission to help, to earn trust, and to prove that humans could be allies to a species far more advanced than themselves. Lysara had been cautious, but curiosity had brought her to a bold decision. She agreed to meet Elias at the edge of her palace gardens. The palace was unlike anything Elias had ever imagined. Towers of crystalline structures rose like jagged mountains, glowing faintly in the twin sunlight. Bioluminescent plants and vines grew along the walls, their gentle light creating a magical atmosphere. The air carried a faint hum, a natural resonance of Virelia itself, as if the planet was alive and breathing. "You may enter," Lysara said, her voice steady but tinged with caution. "But remember, one wrong move, and our contact will end. I will not risk my people for curiosity." Elias bowed respectfully. "I understand, Princess. I do not wish to harm. I wish only to learn and help." As he stepped into the gardens, Elias felt both awe and nervous excitement. The palace was protected in subtle ways, barriers that only moved when Lysara approached, paths that adjusted according to her movement, and plants that shifted to shield her from unwanted attention. It was a living fortress, beautiful and terrifying at once. Lysara walked beside him, keeping a careful distance. "You humans rely too much on tools," she said. "Here, we rely on understanding our surroundings, on respect, on patience." Elias smiled. "Then teach me. I can learn." "Don't. I, camarade." Their first challenge came sooner than expected. The palace gardens had a system of water channels designed to nourish the crystal plants. But a recent storm had caused them to overflow. The water was dangerously acidic in some areas, capable of burning even Lysara's resilient skin. Small pools threatened the pathways, and the delicate crystal trees could be damaged if the flow was not controlled. Lysara sighed. "This is a problem my advisors cannot solve. You may try, but humans are not welcome in solving palace matters." Elias knelt, studying the water flow with his portable scanner. "It seems the channels can be redirected with minor adjustments. I can build small barriers to guide the water safely." Lysara tilted her head, curious despite herself. "You would interfere with palace design? That is bold." "I would call it problem-solving," Elias said with a grin. "And humans are rather good at it." Over the next hours, Elias worked alongside Lysara, carefully moving crystal panels and constructing channels using lightweight, reflective barriers. He respected her boundaries, never touching her or letting her poison threaten him. Yet, their coordination was seamless. Lysara guided him, adjusting paths and giving advice, and he adapted quickly, impressing her with his ingenuity. By nightfall, the water flowed safely through the gardens, nourishing the plants without flooding pathways. Lysara studied the results, her violet eyes reflecting the glowing crystal trees. For the first time, she allowed a faint smile. "You humans may survive more than I expected," she said. "Your kind is clever, persistent, and surprisingly considerate." Elias shrugged. "We try. We care about more than survival. About understanding. About helping where we can." It was then that Lysara shared a personal truth. She led Elias to a secluded terrace overlooking the glowing city below. "I have lived my life isolated," she admitted. "Poisonous to touch, cautious of all. Centuries of loneliness. Even my advisors fear me. No one has ever been able to connect with me. And yet, I find myself trusting you." Elias's heart swelled. He understood the weight of isolation, even though he was human. "Trust is earned, princess, and it seems we have begun to earn it from each other." Lysara looked at him, eyes wide with an emotion she had rarely allowed herself to show. "Hope. Perhaps humans are different. Perhaps there is something remarkable in your kind." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden commotion in the city below. Alarms sounded, lights flashing across the crystal buildings. A group of Lysara's advisors rushed past them, whispering urgently. "What is happening?" Elias asked. "A minor rebellion," Lysara said, her voice steady but tense. "Some factions within the court are unhappy with my decisions. They may attempt to undermine me, even harm me, but I am protected. Mostly." Elias's mind raced. "Then let us ensure that you remain safe. Together, we can prepare, without causing harm." Lysara studied him for a long moment. "You would involve yourself in court matters? Humans are reckless, often careless with power." "Perhaps," Elias said. "But humans also adapt. We use our minds, our creativity, and our empathy to solve problems others cannot. Let me help." Quote. Reluctantly, Lysara agreed. Over the next few days, they devised strategies to protect the palace and its inhabitants without violence. They rearranged subtle defenses, set up warning systems using the natural resonance of the palace crystals, and trained select guards in careful observation techniques. Elias's human ingenuity, combined with Lysara's knowledge of her world, created an alliance that no one had anticipated. But the greatest breakthrough came in a moment of personal trust. Lysara led Elias to a chamber where she kept protective suits designed for visitors. Each suit allowed safe contact with her poisonous skin. She offered one to Elias. "This is unprecedented," she said. "If you wear this, you may touch me. But know that it is not a gift I give lightly." Elias carefully donned the suit, adjusting it to ensure it functioned properly. "Then I accept," he said softly. "Not as a conquest, but as a gesture of respect and trust." Lysara hesitated, then stepped forward. With precise movements, she allowed Elias to reach out. Their first touch, gloved and protected, was a small but profound moment. It symbolized not just connection, but understanding. Humanity had found a way to bridge the impossible gap between species, using ingenuity, empathy, and courage. "You humans may be more remarkable than I imagined," Lysara whispered. Elias smiled, feeling the bond grow stronger. But peace was fragile. Even as they celebrated this small victory, whispers of dissent grew louder in the city below. Rival factions within the court plotted in shadows, envious of Lysara's control and suspicious of the human who had earned her trust. The stage was set for challenges far greater than water channels or minor palace adjustments. Elias and Lysara both knew it. But for now, they had achieved something extraordinary. Mutual respect, trust, and the first true human-alien alliance. And it was a start, a small spark that could ignite something far greater across the galaxy. That night, under the twin suns' fading light, they stood together on the palace terrace. Crystal towers glowed softly around them, and the city hummed with life. Lysara spoke quietly, almost to herself. "You humans persist where others fail. You adapt where others cannot. Perhaps your species has a purpose beyond simple survival." Elias placed a hand lightly on the terrace railing, careful not to reach for her, yet close enough to share the moment. "Our purpose is simple: to understand, to help, and to find connections. Perhaps that is enough to make a difference." Lysara nodded, eyes reflecting the city lights and the stars beyond. She felt something she had not felt in centuries. Hope. Not just for herself, but for her people, and perhaps even for the humans who had arrived on her world. The first true bond between human and alien had been forged not through force, not through conquest, but through trust, ingenuity, and the courage to bridge impossible boundaries. And while the rebellion stirred below, and the challenges of court politics awaited, Elias knew one thing: humanity had a place on Virelia. Not as conquerors, not as invaders, but as allies capable of incredible courage, compassion, and brilliance. The journey had only just begun. The morning sun rose over Virelia's crystal towers, casting rainbow-colored light across the city. For Princess Lysara, it was supposed to be a day of peace, yet tension thrummed in every corner of her palace. Whispers of rebellion had grown louder during the night. Factions within her court, jealous of her authority and suspicious of the human who had earned her trust, were plotting to challenge her rule. Elias Ward, standing beside her on the palace terrace, noticed the worry in her violet eyes. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Lysara nodded, her posture straightening with determination. "I must be. My people rely on me, and I rely on you, human." Elias smiled faintly. "Then, let's ensure they cannot harm anyone unnecessarily. Humans have a way of turning challenges into opportunities." The first sign of the rebellion came at midday. Groups of advisors and palace staff began moving toward the ceremonial square where Lysara was to address her people. Their faces were tense, and their intentions were clear. They wanted to intimidate her and make her appear weak. Lysara turned to Elias. "This is where human ingenuity must shine. My people respect strength and creativity. Can you help me show it?" "Can you help me show it?" "I can," Elias replied, already scanning the square and surrounding streets. "Let's use what we have: environment, timing, and perception." They quickly devised a plan. The crystal towers surrounding the square had natural resonance. By tapping them in specific sequences, they could produce sounds and vibrations that would draw attention or cause mild disorientation without harming anyone. Bioluminescent plants could be illuminated to guide loyal guards while masking movement from rebels. Simple tools, carefully used, could amplify Virelia's natural defenses. As the rebels began their approach, Elias coordinated with Lysara's loyal guards. "Stay calm," he instructed. "Observe. Respond. You do not need to fight. You need to protect and guide." The first wave of dissenters entered the square, shouting demands and attempting to block Lysara's path. Elias tapped a crystal panel, producing a low, rhythmic hum. The sound was subtle but noticeable. It drew the attention of the crowd, creating an organized distraction. Confused, some rebels faltered, unsure which way to go. Lysara, standing tall, raised her voice. "You threaten my people and our home. There is no need for violence. Step aside, or be reminded of the consequences of endangering Virelia." A few rebels hesitated, but others pressed forward. Elias acted quickly. Using reflective crystal panels and carefully placed prisms, he redirected sunlight into the square, creating dazzling beams that disoriented the intruders without harming them. The rebels stumbled, giving the guards a chance to block their path. Lysara watched in awe. "You, humans, you see possibilities where others see obstacles." Elias shrugged, focusing on the next move. "We are adaptable. That is what makes humans remarkable." The situation escalated as the remaining rebels realized they could not overpower the loyal guards or the clever use of the palace's natural features. Some tried to hide, others to flee. Elias suggested using the palace's resonance system again, this time to send a warning tone throughout the city, signaling that the princess was safe and that rebellion would bring no advantage. Lysara nodded, impressed. "You turn threats into lessons, not battles. That is a rare talent among any species." Hours passed, and slowly, the rebellion lost momentum. The leaders of the dissenters, realizing that physical force and intimidation would not work, surrendered to the palace guards. The crowd of citizens who had gathered in the square began murmuring in approval, impressed by the calm and intelligent handling of the crisis. Finally, the square was quiet. Lysara stepped forward to address her people. Her voice echoed through the crystalline towers. "Today, we faced a challenge without harm. We relied on wisdom, courage, and understanding. Let this be the way of Virelia: strong, just, and clever." The citizens cheered, their faith in their princess renewed. Lysara turned to Elias, her eyes shining. "You have not only helped me today, human, but you have shown my people the value of your kind. Humanity's courage, creativity, and respect are extraordinary." Elias smiled humbly. "I did what any human would do. We work together, we solve problems, and we try to protect life. That is what makes us who we are." After the ceremony, Lysara invited Elias to the palace gardens, the place where they had first solved the water problem together. The glow of the bioluminescent plants reflected off her shimmering skin, casting patterns across the crystal pathways. She gestured to the protective suits again. "Today, we relied on strategy, not danger," she said. But there is another way to trust. One I am willing to share with you. Elias nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and caution. He understood the significance of this moment. Trust between species was rare, and this was a symbol of a true bond. Carefully, he approached, fully aware of the delicate nature of Lysara's poisonous abilities. This time, it was more than a gesture. It was a statement of unity. Slowly, under the watchful glow of the crystal plants, Elias and Lysara embraced, shielded by technology that allowed her to share the warmth of connection without risk. It was a human-alien moment unlike any other, demonstrating that trust, courage, and ingenuity could overcome even the most dangerous barriers. After a moment, Lysara stepped back, smiling. Humans, you do not simply survive. You adapt, create, and inspire. You are worthy of respect. And perhaps, something more. Elias laughed softly. And you, Lysara, are remarkable, not just for your abilities, but for your courage to trust. Humans can meet you halfway, if only you let us. Days later, Virelia began to change. Lysara invited Elias to assist in restructuring certain court systems, designing non-harmful ways to resolve disputes and ensure communication between factions. His influence, subtle yet profound, improved life for citizens and eased tensions between different groups. Human ingenuity, tempered with empathy, was a bridge for peace, showing that intelligence could be a force for unity. Lysara often walked with Elias through the crystal forests, sharing knowledge about her world while learning from his stories of humanity. She marveled at the creativity of humans, their ability to solve problems with limited resources, their ingenuity in adapting tools for unexpected challenges, and their emotional resilience. You humans, she said one evening, you can make even impossible situations manageable. You see opportunities where others see only threats. Perhaps your species is meant to explore and connect, not just survive. Elias smiled. Perhaps that is our gift. We don't just adapt to survive. We adapt to thrive, to help, to learn, and to connect with others. That is what makes humanity, well, human. As the twin suns set, casting a golden-violet glow over the palace, Lysara and Elias looked out over Virelia. The city sparkled in the evening light, the crystal towers reflecting a future full of possibilities. There were challenges ahead, political intrigue, natural disasters, and the mysteries of the galaxy yet to explore. But one truth was certain. Together, human and alien, they could face anything. And so, the story closed with hope and triumph. Humanity had not only survived in a foreign world, it had inspired trust, solved problems, and proved the extraordinary power of courage, empathy, and ingenuity. Lysara had found a partner, not in conquest, but in understanding. Elias had shown the essence of human brilliance, a capacity to connect, adapt, and shine, even in the most alien of worlds. Virelia's crystal forests glimmered softly in the night, as if acknowledging the first true bond between species. And in that quiet glow, both human and alien knew that the universe held endless possibilities, and that together they could illuminate them all.